Welcome, welcome. This is Crafting a Meaningful Life, your podcast with your host, Mary Crafts. And this is episode 244. 244 times I've come here and found something to talk about. I have realized that I kind of got in this habit of having guests on because so many people have reached out to me and want to be part of this podcast. And they love my listenership. They love what this podcast is about. And I was recording the other day with my producer, Drew Steele, and I said, it's been a long time since it's been just me. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, we're going to stop that. We're going to do one with just me, no matter what guests I have in the future. Right now, I want to share with you my thoughts, my experiences, my lessons. And if you watch and listen to the podcast regularly, that's one thing you know about me. Is that it doesn't matter who my guest is. I'm interjecting and putting in my stories and points of view anyway. So you still get a huge chunk of me. But this one is just me and nobody else. This last week, I celebrated little choked up there. I celebrated, and I noticed I used the word celebrated as opposed to remembered. I celebrated that it's been 4 years since I sold my company and retired at age 65. And I wasn't really ready to do it. I thought to myself, I could work for another 10 years without any issue at all. Make more money, get more in the bank for a better retirement, be more on the company expense account. There's lots of great perks to owning your own company. Lots of R&D in the food world. I loved it. But they always say the time to sell is when you have a buyer. And my children were ready. And they were at the time 33 and 35. And my daughter at that point in time is 9 years younger. But they were ready. They were ready to take this and claim this as their own. And I thought, what if I do wait 10 years? And then they're 45. Are they as ready to take this as their own? Are they as filled with fire as they are now? Maybe not. And so I decided it was time to step aside, sell the company, and let generation number 2 take over culinary crafts. There was a moment when I had that time when I thought, will I still have significance? Is there anything, will I become invisible? Will I become like so many other retired people who just play golf? And since I didn't even play golf back then, that was really indomitable. And I decided and I set my goals for doing something different, for making this part of my life even more impactful than this part. And I don't know if it can ever be more impactful because this part I had my children and my grandchildren, and that part of my life is truly my greatest legacy. But I have done quite a few things in 4 years. I trained for Kilimanjaro. I summited Kilimanjaro. I wrote my first book, which is coming out in just a little bit, the end of this month. We're so excited. I started doing business consulting, life coaching. I started doing this podcast. Holy cow. And I've spent more time with my family. And I've become a passionate philanthropist. I remember when I was watching The Wizard of Oz, when I was just little. And at the end, when the wizard gives all the characters a special gift, to the scarecrow, he says, you'll be a philanthropist. And the scarecrow didn't know what that was. And he said, it's a good deed doer. I remember thinking back even then, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. I want to be a good deed doer. And so I've set my feet on that path. I've served so many nonprofits and donate as much as I can. In fact, according to my accountant, I donate way too much. And I'm going to run out of money. But if I do, it will have been for a wonderful reason. But whatever it is, I know that I personally am in the process of crafting this meaningful life. And I look for lessons everywhere. Because if you don't look for lessons, sometimes they just pass you by you. They might come right in front of your face, but you don't see them because you're not looking for them. You're looking past them. That's one of the things people say that they love about me the most, is that when I talk to somebody, I talk right to them and I listen to them. I'm not looking past them at the next person I'm going to talk to or who else in the room do I need to connect with. I look right at them. And you need to be looking right at the lessons the universe is putting right in front of you. And I look for them all the time. In the past week, I had three huge ones come right up in front of me. So last weekend, I was watching the finals with Serena Williams. Now, I don't play tennis. John plays tennis. Oh, that was another thing I found. I found my life partner in the last 4 years, John. That's touching. So I've done major things. Anyway, we were watching Serena Williams, and I was riveted to the TV. I mean, watched every single stroke. And then after that, I rewatched it twice. And I kept wondering, me, who's a tennis player, not a tennis player, and who has never been involved in the sport, why suddenly I was so captivated by her. I mean, I was aware of who she was. I mean, Venus and Serena were pretty much household names, but I never had really ever watched her play a match. And then I watched the movie King Richard, and I became acutely aware of her, of where she came from, her struggles, what her dad went through, her mom, her family, what she went through as Venus kept being put out there as the great one, the glory one, and she was always second. And when I saw that movie, I thought, how many of us feel like no one sees us, that we're invisible? But she had the grit to keep going and to not be invisible, to be seen, and to become what? The GOAT, the greatest of all time. She had a vision of what she wanted to do and how she was going to do it, and she never let it waver. She, for me, is all about commitment, and she's all about purpose. She knew what her purpose here was, and her purpose, I think she knew early on, was more than just being a great tennis player. How many times did I, after her match, listen to young tennis players talk about how she personally had changed the sport? First of all, that you didn't have to be this little petite, thin, white person and a girl. You could be strong. You could be powerful. You ever see a photo of her abs? She's got an 8-pack on her like nobody's business. And you could be black. There was never anyone that was black before, just like Tiger Woods broke through those ceilings in the PGA. Serena broke through. I mean, yes, there was Arthur Ashe, but he was more built like a typical tennis player. And Serena was built more like me, a badass, strong, powerful. And she brought every bit of that grit to the court. That day when she lost, inside of herself, I did not see regret. I don't think she regretted. I mean, yes, she said I should have started training earlier. And, obviously she's heavier than she's ever been in her life. She wasn't quite as agile. She was caught flat-footed a couple times. But there wasn't huge regret. There was more this huge sense of gratitude. She embraced gratitude. And I think it's my life. When I walked away from culinary crafts, I felt a huge sense of gratitude. And very, very little. In fact, I don't think I felt any regret at that point. I was grateful for everything that had happened. And no matter what's going on in your life right now, if you have vision and you have grit, you can achieve it. And what you will find yourself the very most is you will find yourself full of gratitude. I loved it when she walked off the court and she held up her hands in that heart. She loved her fans, and they loved her. But what's next? Now she's at what I call a pivot point. A moment in time when you walk up and one thing has finished and another thing is just beginning. She alluded to that when she said, I don't know what I'll be doing in the world of tennis, but I'll be doing something, and I'm still going to make a difference. Much like I thought when I left culinary crafts. I'm no longer a caterer and an event planner and a big businesswoman in the community, but I'm going to pivot, and whatever I do, it's still going to make a difference. I'm still going to have a vision. I'm still going to bring my best every single day, no matter what. You have to make a shift. She had some shifts. Her age is causing her to shift. I was at that golden age of 65. I had to shift. She's now a mother. And she talked about that, how she wanted to spend more time with her children. I'm now a grandma, and I want to spend more time with my grandchildren who are growing so fast. I'm done. I have 7. They've told me there's no more coming. My oldest is 14. My youngest is 4. And in 10 years, my oldest will be 24. My little Kason. And my youngest, Tristan, who I babysit every week, will be 14 and no longer need his grandma as much. So I'm going to make the most of where I am right now, today. I'm not waiting until the next phase of my life, until I'm done doing my podcast, or I'm done writing my next book, or done climbing my next summit. I have to live each day right now to the fullest, to the best that I can, and be so grateful for this point. You'll remember last week when we talked to Joel Green, and he talked about how the gift being the struggle, and that you have to change your perception of that. Sometimes I'm in the middle of struggle. And it takes me a while, sometimes a little while, sometimes a big while, sometimes a lot of slaps in the face, to see them as gifts. But see them, I do. Serena exited with grace into a new phase. Wherever I am, I want to do it with grace. I want to exit with grace, and I think I did. I embraced retirement with grace. And now, as new things come into me, I'm not going to fight them anymore. I'm going to embrace them. And to that end, I did a coaching session with Aubin Palmer. I think Aubin was 2 weeks ago, maybe, she was just before Joel Green. And we kind of did a little bit of a life coaching session right there, live on the podcast. But then she called me back and she said, Mary, you have more to process on that. Can we do a Zoom call and do some more processing, some more life coaching? And so life coaches, we need life coaches too, just so you know. So we spent an hour together. And she wanted to help me process my emotions that I had felt on my birthday. And on my birthday, on my 69th birthday, instead of doing all the things that I had planned on doing, we were going to go play pickleball in the morning, then we were going to go golf, and then I was going to go to the gym, then we were going to go hike, and we were going to go out to dinner that night. Most of this day was planned around physical activity. But my knees were bothering me so much, and I never have had knee problems, that I couldn't even go to the gym. I couldn't even go for a walk. And I sat there on that sofa over there, just depressed. Because I had always told everyone, I want to live to be 105 with an option to renew. I don't want to live to be 105 if I have to do it sitting here in a wheelchair. No, I take me out next week. No, wait a minute, let me take that back. Take me out maybe in my 90s. I don't want to live to be 105 if I'm not the way I am now. And then I began to Google people who were 105. I'm like, oh my gosh, they look old. And they don't do much. Gee, do I really want to live to be 105? And if I'm only focused on 105, what does that say about 69? Is this year not living? Is next year not living? If the only thing that I focus on and my only goal is to live to be 105, I'm going to miss all these years in between, and there are a lot of them. I want to make the most of each day now. By focusing only out there, it left me in a state of being ungrateful. Ungrateful for what I did have today. So as she processed me through these emotions, she said to me, so what does it say about you if you are not able to be as physically active as you've always been? And my first response was, oh my gosh, I'll be bored out of my mind. And she said, and what else does it say? It says that I won't have as much fun. She said, is that what your life is about, fun? No. She said, what else does it say? Well, if I can't be as physically active as I've been, then I knew the big one. Maybe I would go back to 284 pounds and I would just be pushed away like I always had been. And what does that say? That says that John won't be with me. John won't stay. And then she said, what does that say? It says I'll be alone. I spent so much of my childhood alone, with not many friends, just alone on the couch watching TV. And that fear of being that person again at the end of my life was like a vice grip on my heart. And as we were talking, I found myself not even hardly being able to breathe. And I began to release some of that fear. And she said to me, what do you think? Do you think if you became incapacitated that John would leave you? I dug deep and I said, no. He loves me. He loves me for who I am. And she said, do you think this pain in your knee is going to truly incapacitate you to not living life? No. I know me. I'm going to go to the doctor about this. I'm going to try every possible method of healing to reclaim that active part of me. So maybe your life is not over today at 69? I said, no. Even if I do nothing else than come every week to a podcast, sitting down in a chair, I will be here. And I've learned so much about healthy living and why I want to be healthy. I'm never going back to that. It's been 19 years since I've been there. I'm not going back. I've learned how to live this way and why. And suddenly my spirits began to lift and began to joy fill into my life. And I began to look at my life differently at 69. And grace. I want to do this with grace. And I want to embrace my existence, my existence right now. Everything that today has to offer for me. So each day I ask myself, I tell myself the night before to ask myself these two questions. So when I get up in the morning, I know exactly what's on my agenda, even if it's not on my calendar, because I have tons of things on my calendar. But these are two things that I might do in addition to that. One is, what can I do for someone else today? And two, what will I do for me today? I have a lot of things I'm doing for someone else today. But what am I doing for me? So maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's going walking in nature. Maybe it's reading a good book. Maybe it's just calling John out of the blue and saying, hi, I just wanted to connect with you. and I wanted to be with this you in this moment of time. There's lots of things we can do to fill our own cups so we can fill the cups of others. But remember, if you never fill your own cup, you're much less able to fill anybody else's cup. Make each day matter. So since my birthday 2 weeks ago, I have been 100% focused on making each day matter. I'm not any better than I was then. I have a doctor's appointment today, but I'm not any better. But I'm in a whole different space because no matter what, each day matters. And the last thing that happened to me in the last 2 weeks was I got a slap in the face. This was a big thing for me. And it wasn't a literal physical slap in the face, but it was definitely an emotional, mental, and intellectual slap in the face. I put out all the time that I'm about oneness. I hashtag it on everything. I talk to it about people when I do my speaking. I share my vision with people of how we can become one. I'm the oneness girl. My slap in the face was, I'm not. I've been living separately. I have a good friend, Nikki Walker, and she works as the DEI person at Domo. And at first, I didn't even know what that was. Now I know all about it. It's diversity, equality, and inclusion. And we hit it off so well together, became fast friends immediately because she could see that, oh yeah, I'm totally about DEI. That's me. And you are too. So we're going to get along together. 2 weeks ago, I had this huge wake up. I was on my social media and I'm getting to the maximum on Facebook. I think I have 5 spots left of who can be my friend without going to a business account. I don't want that. So I really look at people and if I want to connect with them. And when I went to look at this friend request, it was like a big mental wake-up call for me because I knew the things I was going to look for. Do we like the same things? Are we on the same wavelength, spirituality? Or are they very churchy? Are they very church-oriented? Are they open-minded or are they Trumpers? Because I don't want to have any Trumpers on my social media. And as I was going through this process, I began to almost like, all this stuff about oneness? It's been just like bullcrap. I'm discerning, I'm using separate things to keep me separate from others. And whether or not I'm going to have them in my line of sight. Oh, sure, I'm nice to people publicly, but my close friends, my close circle, I don't want those people. You know, one of the things I've always complained about people that were so pro-Trump is that they were single vision. They didn't listen to any other points of view. They only heard a single point of view. And how do they know all what I considered not right things that Trump was doing and is doing? And then I realized, well, wait, that's what I'm doing. I'm not listening to all the great things about them. And at first it was a horrific wake-up call. I felt like literally I'd been slapped in the face. And then later, of course, I felt so much gratitude. It was a lesson that the universe sent right in front of me and put right in front of my face for me to look at. How can I be about oneness if I'm not truly about oneness? And embracing everyone no matter their religious thoughts, no matter whether political thoughts, no matter whether their economic thoughts, no matter what circles they run in. I want to embrace all. So I looked at her profile. I saw that we had some friends in common, actually 76 friends to be exact. And I checked out her profile to make sure she was real, because sometimes you have people reaching out to you that aren't real. And when I knew that she was, I didn't look at any of the rest of it. And I just clicked accept. Making decisions based on separateness keeps me small. Making decisions based on oneness and inclusion and diversity makes me large. That's what I want to do. I want to live large. I want to experience all people and their thought processes. And the more we do this, the more we become one. The less we do this, the more separate we are. As a family, as friends, as a country, as a globe. If we are one, we must first come to understand others. And how can I understand them if I don't embrace them? Speaking of embrace, my final thought today with you is going to be about holding people, embracing people. Sometimes people reach to hug me, and just a moment I pause and I say, just so you know, I'm not very good at giving hugs. And they kind of like, I thought Mary was known as the best hugger, but I'm really good at holding you. So if you're okay with me holding you, then I'd love to embrace you. Some people think about that for just a minute because they're used to just that 1 second. Hello, butt stuck out, hands on the back, patting. That's a hug. No. I want to hold you. I want to bring you into my space. I want to feel you right here. I want to change energies with your heart to my heart. And if you're okay with that, it might be 5 seconds. It might be 8 seconds. And if I feel your body relax, it might be 10 seconds that I hold you. Some people have told me, when you held me, Mary, I felt like my mom was holding me. That's unconditional. When you held me, Mary, I felt like this is how I've always wanted to be held. Mary, when you held me, I felt like the most pure love was holding me, accepting me just as I am. That's what I want to be about, not about separateness. And no matter who's in front of me, if they will allow me to hold them, that's what I want to do. I want to be about oneness. I want to be about inclusion. I want to be about what I'm supposed to be about. That mission I was given. What is the dream of humankind? Oneness. It's how I'm crafting my meaningful life now. It's how I'm making each day matter now at 69. Not about any of those years before, and certainly not about 105. Make each day matter. Ponder, what are your pivot points? When have you had to pivot to something? And if you don't think you've ever had one, think on that. And when you get to a pivot point, how will you handle that? And remember to always think through your emotions. Don't allow them to control you. Those things that happened when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Realize what you are today. That's the gift of crafting your meaningful life.
Listen to the full podcast today and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. Crafting a Meaningful Life with Mary Crafts.